Ever so often you come across a video that just absolutely makes you mad. That's what happened to me when now back on my weight loss journey. I have been watching episodes of The Biggest Loser, 600-Pound Life, looking for weight loss channels here on YouTube to kind of inspire me on my journey. And while looking for The Biggest Loser, I came upon this video by Jordan Theresa. And it's really her opinion of The Biggest Loser. She's obviously not a fan. And that doesn't really bother me. You can like it or not like the show. But some of the reasoning that she gave in this video absolutely boggled my mind. And that's what I'm going to react to today and talk about today. So, again, I don't know this person. She's a full-time YouTuber, has a huge following, much bigger than me. I'm not trying to start any beef with her. I think overall her documentaries, I watched some of the others, they're very, very good. I just had issue with this one. And so with that being said, let's dive into what she said and my opinion on it. Because essentially, that's all it is, opinion. But let's have some fun.
Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
And so here we are, just going to watch a little bit of the video, just go over some of the major points. I'm going to skip around a little bit, but I just want to address this. And again, this is not a dig at her at all. I've watched a lot of her other content. I think it's great. Overall, I think she does a really good job with her documentaries. This one, I just think was ridiculous in a lot of ways. But let's jump on in.
Video, I have put a list of trigger warnings at the beginning of this video because I'm going to be talking about very sensitive topics throughout this video. So if you didn't get a chance to look at that, make sure you go back and look at that before.
Sensitive topics on a weight loss show. Okay.
Proceeding watching this video. And today is actually going to be a two-part video as well. The next
stretching that dollar out.
Part should be up in a few days. It's not going to be long.
Don't blame her for that. YouTubers got to make a living, and she is a full-time YouTuber.
Don't worry. And today we are going to be talking about the reality show The Biggest Loser, which was originally an American reality show which aired in 2004.
Started in 2004. It ran from 2004 to 2016. 17 seasons. And it had both Australian and UK versions too, which also ran for multiple seasons. A very successful franchise. Not just one season.
Where 12 obese contestants compete against each other to lose the most weight. There's usually multiple challenges and an elimination process, which I'm going to elaborate more on later in this video.
Not any different than any other reality show, such as Survivor, Big Brother, you name it. Even The Apprentice, elimination. It's no different than any other reality show.
It happens over the course of around 7 months, and they don't just stay at home and lose weight on their own. They move to the Biggest Loser ranch where they have no contact with the outside world.
Incorrect. Once they are eliminated, they continue their journey at home for an at-home prize using whatever skills they learned at the ranch. So yes, the ones at the ranch are still in competition for the $250,000. And then anybody that's eliminated goes home and competes for $100,000 at-home prize.
They are split into two teams where their captains are personal trainers and
not always. Sometimes they compete as couples, as singles, and sometimes, yes, two teams, and also sometimes when it gets down to just a few left, they're both working with both trainers. So yes, a lot of variety in how they're paired up.
The winner of The Biggest Loser is the contestant who loses the largest percentage of their body weight.
Yes, to make it fair between men and women, because men do tend to lose weight a lot more easily than women, it is based on percentage, not total pounds.
a cash prize of $250,000.
If they remain at the ranch. If they go home, they then compete for $100,000.
I have not watched an entire season of this show because
How are you making a reaction to a show that you haven't sat down and watched an entire season? That's like me. I would never have made this video about yours if I hadn't watched multiple of your documentaries and found most of them very, very good. Why would you make a reaction to a show that you've probably only seen, a couple of episodes you can find for free on YouTube? Because most of them are paid episodes. You have to pay for them. So obviously she's not doing that. So she's probably watched the few segments, some of the other your rebukes of the Biggest Loser that you find here, some of the other reactions, and a few of the free bootleg episodes you can find here on the platform. You're going into a firefight with a water pistol, honey.
first of all, it's actually really difficult to find entire seasons to watch.
No, it's not. You just type in Biggest Loser and they pull up all 17 seasons and you can purchase one episode or all episodes. But you're not going to find an entire season free. But it is very easy to find. Just type in The Biggest Loser. That's how I found you.
And on top of that, this show is not enjoyable to watch.
That's a matter of opinion. I happen to enjoy it very much, but I also enjoy reality television. It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
It's painful, I can't lie. It's just...
I find it motivational. You obviously don't have a problem with your weight, and that's great. I do. And I find a lot of it motivational, and I know a lot of other overweight people that find it very motivational as well. So that is very subjective and a matter of opinion, just like my opinion on your video is a matter of opinion and very subjective.
To watch, and I watched a few episodes and some clips on YouTube. Honestly, I wasn't going to put myself through watching an entire...
Then why are you making a 2-part, 1 hour total reaction to a show you've only seen probably an hour of when there's 17 whole seasons out there? That's the reason you didn't know how the teams are divided up.
And honestly, I don't even recommend you guys to watch this as a hate watch or anything like that because there's nothing enjoyable about it.
That's a matter of opinion.
Just extremely uncomfortable and painful to watch, I'm going to be honest.
Well, now that we know that she hasn't really done a whole lot of research, let's step into some of the reasons she doesn't like the show. Be right back. One of the first reasons she said she doesn't like The Biggest Loser is because of fat phobia. Okay, yes, there's a fat acceptance movement out there. There's people that just want you to accept your size no matter what it is, no matter how unhealthy it is, and just be happy with that. And everybody else should accept it too. We should build the world around larger people. We should increase seats on the size of seats on airlines and restaurants just because somebody wants to weigh 600 pounds. No, that's not how the real world works. And you're killing people by telling them that that's okay. And now she's going to talk about why fat phobia is bad.
Part 1, fat phobia. Before we discuss The Biggest Loser, we have to talk about fat phobia because without fat phobia, I really doubt that a show like The Biggest Loser would even exist, let alone thrive the way it did. Now, I'm not going to be going into extreme depth with this topic because with it and I don't want to talk over anyone, but when you do bring up a topic like fat phobia to people who are being fat phobic, it's very, very common that people will sort of use the health defense for the reason that they're being fat phobic.
Okay, what you define as fat phobia and what I define as fat phobia is very different. Fat phobia is discriminating against me, not hiring me, not, for a job that I'm perfectly capable and qualified for doing, a desk job, i.e. But I'm probably not going to get a job as a lineman for the electric company where I have to climb to the top of the thing because of my weight, because I'm not adequate. I was in the military. I probably couldn't get back into the military at my weight because I'm not qualified nor fit for the job. However, if you're discriminating against me for a job that I can do and I am qualified for just because of my weight, that's fat phobia. If you're being intentionally cruel to somebody because they're overweight just to be cruel, That's fat phobia. I don't agree with that. I don't like that. But the thing is, obesity is a 100% curable condition. It is. And yes, that's the reason that a show like The Biggest Loser is very popular and exists, because it's not healthy to be obese. But let's hear what you have.
Something very much along the lines of, if you're obese or overweight, you're going to get a range of different diseases and you will die. That
You will. That is proven medical science.
fatphobic towards you is almost seen as a necessary evil.
Yes, discrimination for discrimination's sake is evil, and I don't agree with that. But telling somebody that you're going to die if you, or you're going to get very sick if you don't take care of yourself, is not being fat phobic. Telling somebody they're okay and they can be healthy at any size and live. I've done so many reactions on the fat acceptance movement. It's just whatever. But that to me is the greater evil, because you're allowing somebody to commit suicide with a knife and fork, literally. And this is coming from a fat person.
You know, they're not trying to be mean, they're trying to save people's lives. So noble, I know. I think
it is noble. Cruelty for cruelty is not noble, but actually telling someone the truth is very noble.
the way that we are taught about health and weight growing up, ironically, is very unhealthy. Growing up, we are taught that your weight equates to your health. So if you aren't at a healthy weight, if you are overweight or obese, you are automatically deemed as unhealthy. And before we debunk that, we need to...
You're going to debunk the fact that obesity is, I think, second only to cardiovascular disease and cancer in the Western world for cause of death. You're going to debunk that. Okay.
Overweight or obese, etc. A majority of doctors will take something called a BMI, which is a body mass index, where they take your height and your weight, they square it, and then they do a mass thing to it, and then they work it out. As you guys can tell, I'm not good at maths. I don't.
So you haven't researched anything on this topic. You watched a couple of clips of The Biggest Loser. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to make a video on it.
No. And if your BMI is 25 or over, you are considered overweight. But BMI is honestly a terrible and inaccurate way of measuring weight. To quote a Medical News Today article, it does not take into account muscle mass, bone density, overall body composition, and racial and sex differences.
Okay, fine. I'll give you that. BMI may not be the best indicator, but it is a good one. You know, chances are if you fall into the overweight category, you're overweight. We used to use, when I came up, the old height weight chart. Literally, you had a minimum and a max weight for your height, and that's what they judged you on. Very unfair. That did not take into consideration anything. It was just there. So the BMI is a huge improvement over that system. And yes, it does continue to need to be used. But unless you're going to put everybody through a bod pod where you can measure everything, it's a pretty good indicator of where you fall on the health spectrum. And when you get down to, okay, sex differences, I'll give you. Women are typically have more fat. We're like a average woman is about 25%, 30% fat. I get that. But the BMI charts do come in gender specific models as well. Now, racial, okay, some racials, people I suppose do tend to be, chunkier or leaner. If you look at the average weight of African Americans versus white people, you'll see that there's a variance, that white people tend to be a little smaller, black people tend to be a little bigger. But is that really because they were designed to be that way, or is that because of lifestyle and just the fact that certain things are accepted and certain things aren't in each community? Southerners, for example, tend to be heavier than Northerners. It's because we eat a lot of bad food. The same with, African American cuisine, what would be typical African American soul food, and Southern cooking, very, very similar. So if you look at a Southern white person, their weight's going to be more in line with an African American person than a, let's say, Northern or Western white person that's in a state that is very outdoorsy and stuff like that. So you have to look at it that way. Is it really that you're designed to be that way, or is it just that your culture kind of creates the positive, kind of creates the energy to make you that way, if that makes sense? So, yeah. Well, let's hear what she has to say.
Guys, BMI wasn't even created by a doctor. It was created by a mathematician in the
Correct.
19th century. We're still using this.
It's created by mathematicians and engineers who use the same premise, oh, when we build buildings, to make sure that a building's not going to fall down after 10 years. And a lot of our buildings last hundreds of years. So it's pretty good technique.
Wasn't even created by a doctor. There are so many people who share their experiences with having to be weighed at school. Over here in the UK, the first time you get weighed in school, I was around.
I agree. When first time I took the presidential physical fitness test, it was not fun. I hated it. But I also knew that only I could make those changes. It goes back to, does everybody get a participation trophy, or do we tell you the truth? That's kind of where it falls back to. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit here.
Using BMI. There are plenty of people who, BMI-wise, are considered overweight or obese and are living healthy lifestyles. They eat healthily, they eat a well-rounded diet, they go to the gym, they're active people. Yet people always jump to the conclusion that if you're fat, that you're unhealthy and...
Honey, I don't care how healthy an obese person's, and we're talking obese, not just a little overweight. We're talking at least 50 to 100 pounds over your ideal weight range here when you get into obesity. I don't care how healthy, whole foods, organic your diet is. You're eating too much of it, because calories in, calories out is time tested. I have done keto in the past. Right now I'm doing noon with a keto twist. But keto is just another way to restrict calories, because you're vastly restricting a widely available source of macronutrients, carbohydrates. So it's just another way to calorie restrict. That's what you have to do to lose weight. It's calories in, calories out. And if you are 300 pounds, you're eating too much food. I don't care if it's organic greens, and you're not eating organic greens. The volume of food, you couldn't cram it in. You're eating fairly unhealthy, high caloric foods to maintain a weight of 300 pounds or more and to gain. So don't give me that they're healthy. Just the math doesn't work out.
A healthier lifestyle, as if body shaming.
Nobody should shame anybody, but you should be coached that your life will be a little more difficult if you don't take care of yourself.
Not work. On the
Work for me.
other end of things, just because someone is to have a healthy weight does not mean that they are living a healthy lifestyle. And there is a walking, talking example right in front of you guys. Me, I'm a slim person and I haven't had my BMI taken in years.
Okay, I get that. That, yes, there's a lot of skinny people that don't have a quote-unquote healthy diet. But they may have a very trashy standard American, standard Canadian, standard UK diet, but they're just not eating a lot of calories of it, and their body is able to compensate because of their metabolism. So, okay, I get that. Yes, a skinny person or a normal weight or underweight person can be living a very healthy lifestyle and just not eating enough calories to affect their weight. But when we get into underweight, people that have eating disorders and things like that, that's not healthy either. That's not healthy either. So, okay, I'll give you that. But when it comes to overweight people, it's calories in, calories out. They're eating too much of whatever they're eating. And I guarantee you they're not getting fat on organic vegetables and lean chicken. I guarantee it.
Healthy BMI. I don't have a very well-rounded diet. I basically live off chili beef now.
Okay, I agree with you there. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
The beauty standard.
Let's see.
Atlantic slave trade. I've spoken about this on my channel before, but fat phobia does have a lot of racist origins. I really recommend getting the book Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings if you guys want to find out more about this, because I'm only going to be discussing it very, very simply. Before the transatlantic slave trade, being fat was actually seen as desirable. It was
Yes, in the Victorian age, even amongst Europeans, white folks, it was considered desirable because it meant you had status, you had money to buy food when food wasn't so readily available. So people that were thin or underweight, it was pretty obvious they didn't get enough calories, or they worked really hard and they kept it off. So, yes, being overweight was desirable, and I'm sure that same trend was in Africa as well. But saying that because of the Atlantic slave trade that fat phobia became a thing here, uh that's kind of strange. It's like you're saying that it's okay for certain races to be obese. And I don't get that. No one is built to carry 300, 400 pounds. And those are the types of obese people that The Biggest Loser target.
It showed that you were wealthy. But once the transatlantic slave trade began, a lot of very racist French philosophers started theorizing about black people and their bodies. And
No, I think people started theorizing about bodies in general. But anyway, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. I don't want to use too much of her video.
Of The Biggest Loser. Now, let's talk about, and they are split into 2 teams, and their captains are personal trainers. Each episode is
Each episode is an hour and a half, 2 hours with commercials, sometimes 45 minutes. They're not always split into 2 teams. They also compete as couples, as singles, and sometimes as one big mass unit as the numbers dwindle down. Then there's a challenge where they have to do something either mental or physical to win a prize, whether that prize is immunity or exercise equipment or something to, help them on their journey. And then there's a lot of gameplay, just like any reality show. You can win the option to choose teams or decide whose weight counts for a certain team. There's a lot of politics and gameplay there. It is a reality show. It is a game show. And then there's workouts, and then a final workout where they try to burn all the calories that they can, and then they weigh in, and somebody is either eliminated automatically because there's a yellow line and a red line system. If it's a yellow line, then the 2 people with the lowest percentage on the losing team, or the just in general, if they're playing as singles, fall below the yellow line. It's kind of like Survivor, where they're voted off the island, they're voted off the thing, and then they go home and compete for the at-home prize. Whereas if it's a red line, just the person with the lowest percentage falls below, they're eliminated automatically. And it is gauged on percentage of body weight lost, not pounds, to kind of even up between men and women, races, whatever you want to say. So that's kind of the thing. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I don't think we need to hear a recap of what it's about. So let's hear what she has to say about the contestants.
Sick. Part 3, the contestants. I think almost an integral cog to The Biggest Loser machine is the contestants which they choose to go on the show. In its peak, The Biggest Loser was so popular that thousands of people were applying to go on it every single year. And this was discussed on the Maintenance Phase podcast, but The Biggest Loser obviously chooses overweight and obese people who aren't healthy and aren't happy with their bodies. And
yeah, because if you are obese but perfectly happy, you're not going to apply to go on a show like The Biggest Loser, because the people that apply are the ones that want to lose weight. And let's face it, it's a lot more dramatic to see somebody that weighs 400 pounds. There was a young lady on the season 8 who weighed 476 pounds. African American. You're telling me that's healthy? No. So yes, they're going to choose the biggest and the most dramatic backstories or what have you, because it makes good reality TV.
Imply that every single overweight or obese person.
They don't imply that at all. America is one of the fattest countries in the world, along with the UK and Australia. We have problems that we need to correct because it's not healthy. But they're not saying that every single overweight person feels that way. Just the ones that apply to be on the show.
which just isn't the case. As I said earlier, there are plenty of people who are considered overweight or obese who are living healthy lifestyles.
If you're obese, you're not living a healthy lifestyle. If you're a little overweight, okay, maybe. Maybe there's one thing you could change to make it a little healthier. But if you're obese, we're talking 300-400 pounds, you're not living a healthy lifestyle. Let's just drop that facade right now, please.
And slash or are very happy with their bodies. And I do just want to add that
I don't know a whole lot of 300 and 400 pound people that are, and I know some that are happy with their bodies. I know plenty of people that are, upper 100s, 200s that are very happy with their body. More power to them. No problem. That's not the types of overweight we're talking about with this show. We're talking about morbidly obese people. They're not happy. They're not happy.
Wanting to lead a healthier lifestyle and make a change in your life. The contestants.
Exactly. So let them have their show and don't watch it if you don't like it.
Just because someone is fat and unhealthy doesn't make them any lesser of a person.
Don't think, obviously you haven't watched the show, you've admitted that. The whole part of the show is bringing them out of their shell, making them see their self-worth. So that they're doing this for them. They're not doing this for America. They're not doing this for the people in their lives. They're doing it for themselves. A lot of it is these overweight people coming out of their shell. These morbidly obese people coming out of their shell and realizing their own self-worth and wanting to do it for them.
Bad person, which is what The Biggest Loser seems to imply. And
no, they've never called anybody bad. Sick and unhealthy, yes, but not bad. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. No, they're not, but they are somebody to talk to, and mental health should be part of the show. It's not even on anymore, so what does it matter? I agree, you should have had counselors and mental health professionals there.
There's absolutely no therapists on set on
Correct.
the show. There was one contestant on season 16, Erin, who was actually a contestant on The Voice, and she went for her first weigh-in, and I think she lost around 10 pounds, and she got very emotional while she was on the scales, and the host asked, when was the last time that you lost this much weight? And she said it was when she was bulimic, and it was still celebrated.
They were celebrating the victory. I saw that season. They were celebrating the victory of this. She had just lost 10 pounds in the 10 days. Like when they weigh in, they say it's a week, but it's really not. It's actually like 10 days, 2 weeks. So the weight loss is actually more in line with what you would see at home usually. So she lost 5 pounds a week essentially, which is doable if you have a high body fat and you're exercising. It is very doable. And they're all on a 1,200 calorie a day diet. Unless they have special medical needs, they're all on a 1,200 calorie a day diet. The same diet that Dr. Nazardin on 600 Pound Life and most bariatric surgeons put their patients on. So that's not a lot of food. And if you're working out 4 to 6 hours a day, like those people are, you're going to drop a lot of weight. But if you're on 1,200 calories a day and working out an hour a day, you're going to drop a significant amount of weight, especially if you're larger. So they were really celebrating her victory that she did it more healthily than having bulimia. Not the fact that she had bulimia. Jeez.
Honestly, just really sad to watch. And also...
No, they talked to her later in that season about her bulimia and helped her realize what was wrong with that picture. That's because you probably only watched like 2 episodes, maybe, of that season. But no, they go into that very much in depth. Again, you're not even equipped to make this reaction because you haven't watched the show.
Another thing to note about the contestants is it's pretty known that some of the contestants actually enter for the prize money and not...
Yeah, like any game, it is a game show. $250,000 is a lot of money.
Lose weight. There are some contestants who allegedly have admitted to entering the competitions they could pay off their college debt. And
yeah, it's the same reason anybody would participate in any kind of reality show. They know what they're getting into. I actually applied to be on the show. There is, this 25-page contract that explains everything that's going to happen to you and what really happens, and so you understand. And they are paid a day rate because they are considered actors while they're there. So you know full front why you're going into it. So I think the $500,000, at ranch prize versus the $100,000 at home prize is a good reason why you would want to go through that, because you're going to be putting yourself out there, and that's the reason for a game show, is to win something. If there were no prizes, there would be no game shows or reality shows.
Stuck in my head, which was from season 16, is right at the beginning, they get all of the contestants to run, I think it was a mile on a treadmill. And whilst they were running, the host offered $5,000 to anyone that would quit the show.
Yes, and he upped it to $25,000. And what she's about to say here is that they target people that are in poverty. Not true. I've gone through all 17 seasons and looked at the contestant stats. Most of them are average working middle class people, not living below the poverty line. The average income in the United States is $50,000. So most of them are going to fall into that two worker households where they're probably making, together $50,000 to $70,000 a year. They're not living it. None of these contestants are living in poverty. They're average middle class, average flyover state middle class people.
And then he upped it to $10,000.
And all the way up to 25, yes. And no one took it because they were trying to value themselves more than a quick payout of $25,000. That was the whole purpose.
All the way to $25,000. $25,000 in someone who probably is living below the poverty line.
None of those people were living below the poverty line. They were average middle class people. Don't exaggerate. There's engineers, teachers. There's a restaurant owner on there. There's all kinds of people that have average jobs where they're probably making $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Some more than that.
Unbelievably cruel.
Now we're going to fast forward to the final part, shady behavior.
The biggest bulk of this video.
Okay. So yes, there's been some shady behavior on The Biggest Loser, just like on any reality show. They use caffeine pills. People have dehydrated themselves just before the finale to win the $250,000. No different than any other competitive person. And why I don't think that's healthy, I understand why in the short term they would want to do that to win the money, because it is a competitive game. And that's where I'm going to end my analysis of this video. I think overall it is a very heavy-handed, overly dramatic rebuke of a game show that you've not watched and you don't understand and you haven't. And that's fine. That's your opinion. Don't watch it. But there are some of us that use it for inspiration and enjoy it, and it's no different than any other reality show out there. The people that sign up know what they're getting into, and it's a chance to win $250,000. Bottom line. And $100,000 if you end up going home. That's the whole purpose behind any of these shows. And it's okay to do it, and it's okay to watch it. And they do have doctors on set, medics on set to watch them. But yes, people get competitive when there's money involved. And so that's pretty much all I have to say. She did do a two-parter. It was more of the same. She did comment on how much product placement was in it, and then talked about her own sponsors. So they're not doing anything different than you're doing, Jordan. And I understand the need to make money. So I'm not downing you either. You have every right to make money, just like they have every right to make money. And a lot of the prizes they give these people, year's worth of healthy groceries, a year's gym membership, exercise equipment. It's pretty nice stuff. I'd be happy to have it. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back really soon with another true crime video. Until next time, keep doing crime.